So, the first question that we've got is, I'm using the CRS web to import batches of references from Embase Medline Central for Cochrane reviews, but the CRS seems to intuitively deduplicate refs against the content in my segment. I really need to be able to import the complete search yield in its entirety, whether or not the records already appear in my segment, because it may be that I've not sent the duplicate ref of this to this particular author before. That's a question that's come up before. We think the answer is that it does already do that. So Joe, that was you who raised that one. So what will be quite useful would be, I think, for Dave just to explain what the process is at the moment as we understand it, and then maybe if that's not what you're seeing, you could chip in and let us know where we've misunderstood the question. So Dave, do you want to just talk us through what happens when you import records that have got duplicates that are already in the system?
Yeah, sure. So when you import a file, we run the deduplication to check if any of those records already exist in the CRSD or in your segment, and potentially those records could match up to the same record in CRSD or in your segment. So I think in the last version that was causing complications in that, say you were importing 1,000 records and then your folder only had 900 in there because 100 of them had matched to the same records. So what we introduced was the internal duplicate screen during the import process, which tells you that these records have matched to the same record in the CRS web, and it asks you to deal with them before we import. So that way, when you import your file into the CRS, the folder will contain the exact number of records that you've imported from that file. So even if the record matches to a record that already exists in CRS, it will appear in the imported file folder in CRS.
But just to add to that, to be clear, what it isn't doing is importing it as a duplicate. So the change that we've made is to say that when you import 1,000 records, if 100 of those already exist, so they're duplicates of records that are already there, those 100 won't be re-imported, but the count on the folder and the import folder will still be 1,000. So you'll have 1,000 records in there, but 100 would have been duplicates that already existed. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question, or have we misunderstood the question, Joe?
I think the only exception there, Gordon, is where if we have two records that match the same report and we put it into the internal duplicate, the internal file duplicate screen, if you choose that you want to import both of them, they'll both go in as new records, because we can't decide which one of them should be linked to the existing one. So they'll go in, and then you can then dedupe that within that folder and merge them.
Yeah, thanks. Angela's got a
question from Angela, but I just wondered whether Joe wants to respond to that first. Joe, you're unmuted if you did want to say anything.
Okay, great, thanks. I was just typing. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That does answer my question. And I had noticed that the concerns that I'd had in previous iterations of CRS Web, yeah, I had noticed that it didn't seem to be a problem as I was doing some work on it this week. Yeah, so that's great. So that the deduplication screen, even if I tick that the record is a duplicate, that I'm seeing that those records are still going into my import file, and I can deal with them separately for the author. Thank you.
Cool.
And Angela, I'm just going to mute you. Go ahead.
I'm totally confused now because what David's describing as what's happening new is what I thought was happening in standalone. So I'm not actually. I just don't understand it at all because, as I say, that's what I thought was happening.
Yes, that's what was happening with standalone, but with web, what we were originally doing was when duplicates were found, we were not including those in the count. So that was reported.
Okay, I thought David said it wasn't what was happening in standalone. That's obviously where I got it wrong then. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't think Dave was talking about standalone, but I may have missed that. But
no, it was a previous version of CRS Web rather than standalone.
Okay, my misunderstanding. Sorry.
No problem. It's fine.